Hilchas Gzeilah V'Aveidah Perek Shvi. So in this Perek, the Rambam discusses the dinim, someone that owed someone money, and the other person claimed that he owed him money. He denies owing him money, and then he swears that he doesn't owe him money. And this shvur is even shlei bebezin. It doesn't have to be. He swore that he doesn't owe him money, and now he was made that he swore falsely that he really did owe him the money. So the din is he has to pay back the keren, and he also has to pay back a chaimish, and he also has to bring a carbon asham, which is called the asham gzeilas. That's the halachas of this perek. Perek shvi. Kol mishin is chayiv mamel lechavera hayisrael. He owed someone money, and lepel v'kafar be. He denied owing him the money, and also v'nishba sheker. He swore falsely and saying that he doesn't owe him the money. So the din is hariza chayiv lahazel yakeren shekafar be. So the first thing he has to give him back the keren, and also v'sofas chaimish he has to add a chaimish to this keren, and also the chayiv carbon, and he also owes has to bring a carbon. V'hu anikra Hasham Gzeilas. So this carbon is the Hasham Gzeilas. Now, echad ha-goizel, why did he owe money? There makes a difference why he owed him money. Either he was goizel from him money, and that's why he owes him the money, or ha'oishik means he's holding back from him schar socher, which means that person worked for him, and he owes him his wages, and lepel is not paying his wages, so he's claiming, where's my wages? Or goinef, he wasn't a goizel, but he was a goinef. So again, this person is claiming, you owe me the money because you were a goinef. Oisha Hilvo, that person's claiming he lent him money. Esha Hivke, that's like Esha Motza Aveidah, he's saying that you found an Aveidah, and therefore that Aveidah is mine, and the Chichishbel. And this person that is denying that he found this Aveidah, that he owes him the money. Oisha Isa B'Neim Shutfis, or they had a Shutfis together, and initially Esli money, and he says we had a Shutfis together, and there's still money of mine that was left by you. Esha Asali Malacha, or he did work for him. He says, I did work for you, and you were going to pay me for the work as a craftsman. Oishik is talking about that he was a schar socher. He was getting paid for the day, but over here he did a certain work, and you didn't pay me yet. Klali shel davar, kol she'ilu hey dechayiv l'shalom badin. Any types of money that, let's see, Reuven is asking Shimon, you owe me money. Why do you owe me money? Either because Shimon was a gazlan, or Shimon was a ganev, or Shimon owes him money for his wages, or he owes him money because he lent him money, or because he was a mafkid money, or because he was an aveda. Any reasons, Reuven is money by Shimon money. And lepeil, kol she'ilu, and if Shimon would have agreed to what Reuven is saying, he would have owed him the money. She'ilu heida is chayiv l'shalom v'din, he would have to actually pay him the din. And the kafir, and he denied owing the money. And the nishba, and he swore that he doesn't owe him the money. So the din is mishalim keren b'chemish. Nam v'chichish ba'misei b'pikadin. We learn out from that pasuk that any type of claim that he owes him money and he denies it, he has to pay the keren v'chemish if he was nishba l'sheker, and then he admits it. Halacha Gimel. B'medvar mamurim. When do we say that if you denied owing someone money and you swear yechayev a keren v'chemish and then a nasham, that's only b'shahoy yechayev l'shalom achmas atzmi. You owed this person the money, and you denied owing the person the money, and then you swore, and then you were made up. B'shahoy yechayev l'shalom achmas atzmi. Avol m'hoy yechayev l'shalom achmas aviv. If not, the chiyuv didn't come because of you. The chiyuv came because of aviv. Is einim mishalom chemish. Then you don't have to pay chemish. Ketzad kegei shegozel aviv. A person's father stole a ganav, a sheyechayev lacherim. And lepel, now the father died. V'aben yideh. The father knows that his father. This child knows that his father was a ganef or he was a gazlan. He stole or he was gazlan money from this particular person, and therefore he owes him money. Now this person's coming and claiming, the nigzal is coming to the ben and saying, you owe me money because your father was stole from me, or your father was ganef or gazal. V'aben yideh. And now the kafir aben, the ben says, no, my father never stole from you. And v'nishba, and he swears. And v'achar kach heida. So the din is, even though Lepel, he was a nishba l'sheker, and he's made up, but since we're dealing with a claim, there wasn't a claim against him, it was a claim because of his father, it was a claim against him, but because of his father, so therefore, Mishalem HaKeren Bovad, Shenemar Asher Gazal. So we learn out, Al Gzeilah Mesav Chemish. He's only Mesav Chemish, Al Gzeilah, Ve'ene Mesav Chemish, Al Gezel Oviv. Now, Bamedvar Mamurim, that we say that when this person is claiming something from the son because of the father, and the son denies it and swears he doesn't have to pay, that's b'she'en ha'gzeilah kayamis. He's claiming that you owe me money because your father was goizel, and therefore, and he's claiming, no, I don't owe you money because my father wasn't goizel. But we're not talking about a particular item that his father gazelled. We're talking about the father was goizel, and now he's coming, you owe me money because your father was goizel. Avalon Gozal Aviv Hu Mes V'Gzeilah Kayemis. In other words, the Gzeilah that the father took was Kayemis. And now this person is coming along and saying that this item which is in your possession is mine. Basically, he's telling the item is your possession is mine. How did it get into your possession? It got into your possession because your father stole it from you. But Lepel, that fact is not really an important factor. That's not an issue over here. The main issue is that there's a piece of something which is in your possession, it's mine. And he's claiming, no, it's not mine. And the kafir ayerish v'nishba v'acharka cheda, so that is Mishalem Kerem v'chemish, because the father is not over here a factor. The factor is that there's this item which this person is claiming is his, and it was take his, and he was kaifa, and he was nishba l'sheker. So when is this din that you don't have to pay a chemish? Is when you're not talking about a particular item, you're talking about that he was nishba. But now the question is, and we're saying why not? Because lepel, you're only if you are nishba about a claim that's negated to you, and not a claim that was based on the father. Asher gazel v'lei al gzeilah sova. But l'chura, there's another issue over here that l'chura, what do you owe if a person's father was a ganif, and now this person is claiming that he wants money? So where's he going to take the money from? He's going to take the money from karka. There's only karka is meshubed of the Yorshim Mechushabit. There was a dinner, Takonis Ageinim, that's also metalton, but Minatera, only the karka is meshubit. So when this Ben swore that he doesn't owe him any money, he was basically being koifer about a shibud of karka. And the rule is bechlal that when a person is koifer on karka, so there's no din of keren v'chemish. This whole din of a person being koifer moment, and there's a din that you have to pay keren v'chemish, doesn't apply to karka. It only applies to metalton. So mainly the question is, why do we need a special din to say that when the son was koifer something that the father owed, he's potter, and there's a special pasuk because for his gzeilah, not for gzeilah's aviv, l'chura teifikle, that the reason why he's potter is because when he denied, he was denying about karka, and when he swore, he was swearing about karka, and for swearing for karka, there's no din of keren v'chemish. That's the kasha that's asked. So you have to answer. The pshat is that there's a heichatimtza, even on an ateredika level, that you should have to pay for the father's gzeilah, even from a taltalin. Let's say if the father made an apetiki, so the father clearly designated a certain piece of metaltalin, that piece of metaltalin should be miyuchid for the shibud of something of his. So Memela, so we're coming along and saying that over here also there was a gzeilah, and the father, obviously you're going to have to say that there was already a tfiyah on the father of this gzeilah, and then the father was designated an apoitiki for this gzeilah, and now we're coming in money from the son that l'chura your father gazled, and there's an apoitiki for the gzeilah, which is metaltalin, and now he's denying it. So now you have to come on to this chidush that he's not mechuyev because it's gzeilas aviv. It's not such a push the teretz, but l'chura that's going to have to be the teretz. We're learning over here that if you money from the son because of gzeilas aviv, and the son denied it, and he swore, he doesn't have to pay. He doesn't have to pay keren v'chemish, even though he was made that they was nishba l'sheker. And the reason is because of the special limud, that's because of the gzeilas aviv, not gzeilas atzmi. We're asking l'chura if it's gzeilas aviv, so l'chura it's anyways talking about a kvira of karka, and you never pay a keren v'chemish for a shvua on kviras karka. So the answer is you're going to have to say that this case is talking about that there was a kviras metaltlin. How is there a kviras metaltlin? Because there was already a designated apoitiki for this gzeilah by the father. That's how you're going to have to answer. Halacha hey, gozol ha'av, and v'nishba ha'av, and v'hoida, v'achar kach mes. So the father was already mechuyev keren v'chemish. Already the father was the one that was kaifa, and he was nishba, and then he was hoida, so he was mechuyev keren v'chemish. So the din is harei ha'yerish, mishal keren v'chemish. For the yerish is hida, kvira and hida, about the father's, the claim against the father. There's no din keren v'chemish, but over here the father was already mechuyev keren v'chemish. So the son has to pay that keren v'chemish, which is already mishubit under nechasim. Now gazal v'nishba umes, a person was gazal v'nishba umes, and lepeli was never made that. And v'hoida hayerish, and the yerish knows that the father lied. The yerish knows that the father lied in the shvur and in the denial. So the din is mishal makeren bilvad. Either way, hayerish patim nashim. Either way, it means in halacha hey, where the father was already made, the father became mechuyev the chemish, so the son is mechuyev the chemish. In halacha vav, where the father was never made, so the son is not even mechuyev the chemish. But either way, whether the son has to pay the chaimish that the father was mechuyev, or the son doesn't have to pay because lepel there was never a chiyuv chaimish, but the son never brings an osham. You don't bring an osham for the father, and the father is not alive anymore, so there's no chiyuv osham. Halacha zayin. Hanishba legoy, this din that you have to pay a keren, a chaimish, and also an osham for kfiras moment, is that nishba legoy mishalom es hakeren vein mechay b'chaimish. This din is only when a person was a nishba liyisrael shenema v'chichish b'amisei v'chein hagoyzel pachim mishav pruta, and the kafir v'nishba is also ein chay b'chaimish. Why? She'ein pachim mishav pruta moment. And therefore, since it's not moment, so it's not, he really didn't deny moment. It has to be, in other words, he's claiming from him money, and he's denying the money, and he's swearing about the money. But lepel, even if he would be made, there's no chiyuv moment. There's no chiyuv of a pachim mishav pruta. So Mamela doesn't have a din of moment, so Mamela doesn't pass to say the whole din of a chiyuv keren v'chemish. Now, kamu ha'chemish, when you say a fifth, it means echad me'arba me'ak b'keren. A fifth is always a fifth mil bar, which means that, in other words, together with this added piece, it's a fifth of the subtotal, which means it's a quarter of the original keren. So this quarter plus the original keren is five, equals 5 of these. So this is a chaimish of what you're going to pay, which is the keren and the chaimish. Echad me'arba b'keren. Shem gazel shaver arba v'nishba is mishalom chamisha. That's v'mhois ha'gzeilah kayemes. So then as machzeresis you return the gzeilah, and v'nesim d'mei revir shela plus a quarter of the value of the keren. Halacha ches. Ein ha'nishba al kfiras mom and mishalom chaimish ad sheyedem miyatzmei. He himself has to admit. Now, miyatzmei doesn't mean he has to admit miyatzmei and not from Edom. Edom could come and say that he lied, but on the other end, he also has to admit. Aval bo Edom v'hu emet b'kfirase. You know, if Edom came and he still remains with his denial, he doesn't admit to what the Edom are saying. So then is mishalom hakeren bilvad al pio Edom. So because of the Edom, he has to pay the keren because he denied it, and the Edom are saying it's not true. However, the Eina mishalom is hachemish. There's no chiyuv chemish. Shachemish im hakorban lekaparim boim. The whole chemish and the carbon is lekaparim boim. Eina mevin el al piatzmi. Knows this idea. The Rambam is being masber. What's this idea that you don't pay a chemish only al piatzmi because together of the chemish now that is of the yashim is a kapara. And when is a person able to have a kapara if he's admitting that he did the aveira? If a person is denying he did the aveira, so then the chemish and the carbon won't affect the kapara. So therefore, there's taka no chiyuv of chemish and kapara. That's how the Rambam is being masber. This din why there's no chemish and kapara and carbon when he doesn't admit. Halacha tes hagoizlas chaveirei is afal pisha kofar bei. So the person the nigzal mon from the gazla and he was kafer. Aber heil v'lei nishba im chazer v'heida. Now he's being made that he really owes the money. And lepel the nigzal is not here anymore. He went away. Is eini chayev lirdif achrabaylim achi yazol mamom mishbiyodi. The Gazlan doesn't have to go and look for the nigzal. If the nigzal went away, achi yazol mamom mishbiyodi. Elihebe the Gazlan remains by the Gazlan. Achi aveu abaylim v'yitlu shalem until the baylim come and takes it. Even though he denied it, and lepel the baylim went away, so he doesn't have to go ahead and look for the baylim. He doesn't have to look for the nigzal. That's talking about if there was just a kfira without a shvur. Aval and nishba al shava pruto maila, but lepel if there was a shvur, not only a kfira, but it was a kfira plus a shvur. So then it's chayav lirdiv achar abaylim achiyazulam. Then he has to go and look for the baylim in order to return it. And afilahem b'yayam, which bepashtos you would learn that the shaila is how strong is the chiyav hashava. Is the chiyav hashava of a gazlan is one madreg of chiyav hashava. You don't have to go look for him. Masha'inkein if we're talking about there was already a nishba, so you need also to have the kapara of the osham. So mainly you have to go and look for the nigzal in order to pay him back, in order to be able to bring the kapara of the osham. That would be the pashtus advar. But the Rambam adds over here, that the reason why you have to go ahead and look for the nigzal is because the nigzal was nisyayish achash nishba, and ve'enam boin eid letavi. So it seems to be like a practical thing, since they're not going to come here. So therefore, you have to go and look for them, which is not so clear, the Havanas Advarim, how it's massam with the Gemara. The Ram Ma'ara brings B'Shem the K'tzos, that the Pshat is as a Be'etzem, even a Nigzal, Be'etzem, a person who was a Gazan has to return to the Nigzal. He has to return to the Nigzal. He has to make sure that the Nigzal has it. The only thing is that since the Nigzal went away, so the Nigzal knows the Gazan is here, and he was ready to bear from the Gazlan. And now the Gazlan is here, so the fact that the Nigzel went away is kilo, like you're saying, the Rvaila let the Gazlan have it. In other words, let the Gazlan have it. He's not being messiahish from it. He wasn't messiahish from it. Let the Gazlan hold it, and eventually I'll come back and I'll want from him. So it's kilo like the Nigzal left it as a pikod. This is Bem's Aswar of Tesus. That it's kilo like the Nigzal left it as a pikod biyad a Gazlan until it'll come be to it, and therefore he doesn't have to go back. And that explains why the Gazlan, or as Tesus asks, why doesn't the Gazlan Tak have to go back and make sure to give it back to the Nigzal? The answer is because since the Nigzal went away, so by the Nigzal going away, is like he was saying that the Gazlan could hold on to it until I come back, and then I'll take it again, then I'll run again for it. So B'meila, he doesn't have to go and look for him. By Medvar Mamurim, if the Nigzal is expecting to get it back, so therefore by the fact that he went away, is Kilu that he's being mafkeded. But over here, since the Nigzal is not expecting to get it back, because he was not only he denied it, but he was even Nishbal HaSheker, so therefore when the Nigzal went away, it wasn't because he decided I'll leave it by the Gazlan. It's because he doesn't expect to get it back, because he was Messiahish. And now on the other hand, since he's being made that he owes him the money, so therefore he has to go and look for him. In other words, the reason why over here he does have to look for him, over here he doesn't have to look for him, is not because over here there's a stronger chiyuv and over here there's less of a chiyuv. Pshat, when he was Nishbal HaSheker, so the Nigzal was Messiahish, so therefore the fact that the Nigzal went away, we don't look at it as if he was mafkided biyad Gazlan. And therefore the Gazlan has to go and find the Nigzal. Masha'enken, if he wasn't Nishba, so then we could assume that he wasn't Messiahish. Why did he go away? He went away because he figured that the Viola let it remain biyad Gazlan. Eventually I'll come back and then I'll run it from the Gazlan. So that's why the Rambam adds over here. Why over here is Chayev learned? Again, Nachamal. The din is that if a person stamazi denied the money and he didn't swear falsely, any Chayev learned Achar Anigzal. Mashenkin, if he was Nishbal HaSheker, so then he is Chayev learned. What's the difference? So the Rambam says the difference is because when he was Nishbal HaSheker, the Nigzal was Messiahish. What's the chiluk? Because he was Messiahish, not Messiahish. So on that, Tzos is Mazbeh based on that Tesus. Whereas when he wasn't Nishbal HaSheker and he wasn't Messiahish, so why did he leave? He left because he was like leaving it biyad Gazlan, that the Gazlan should Devaila have it. And then I'll come and take it back. So Mamela, the Gazlan doesn't have to go look for him. Masha'enkin, when he was Messiahish, so by the fact that he left wasn't because he was being mafked biyad Gazlan, because he's just not expecting to get it back. So now that this Gazlan is admitting that he owes him the money, and this person left because he was Nesiayish, so now you have to go ahead and look for him. So in other words, the pastus is that you have to go look for him. The only reason you don't have to look for him is because since he left, so we assume that he's going to come back and mon it. Masha'enkin, if he left because he was Nesiayish, so then you have to go look for him. Halacha Yud. Afilu hirzer Gzeilah kula chutz mishava pruta. In the case before, when you were Gezel's chaver and you were nishba, so you have to go ahead and look for the nigzal and give it to him. So that is chayiv leilicha achar nigzal. You have to go and bring it to the nigzal. You have a chiyuv to return it. V'leyitin leilibnei shel nigzal v'leilishluchei. You have to give it to the nigzal himself. Elim kain asa hanigzal hashliach be'edim. If he made these people a shliach be'edim, or he made a shliach be'edim, there's a special takana for the Gazlan that if he brings this Gzeilah to the Bezin Shebeirei, is Areza maybe Osham Umiskaperli. So then he could bring an Osham, and notice he couldn't really bring an Osham until he actually paid back the Karen, as we'll learn. But if he paid back the Karen to the Eidim, to the Bezin, even though Be'etzim, he has to give it to the Nigzal, but it was a special takana that if he gives it to Bezin, Bezin is like holding it for the Nigzal, ubezn betaplen bo. Ach the gele beilen. V'chein nesnu l'shliach bezn. He can give it to a shliach bezn, and the shliach bezn holds it for the Nigzal, and Memela now he could go ahead and bring his korban. V'cholanes and hagzelu kiyetz v'lebezn is yatsi. It was yetzi is the chiyuv hashava. And Memela, even though he said beikar, you're supposed to return it to the Nigzal, but lepel if you give it to bezn, if you give it to shliach bezn, so then you will yetzi your chiyuv hashava. Halacha Yidal. So the din is that the Gazlan has to make sure to bring the Gzeilah back to the Nigzal. He has to bring the Gzeilah back to the Nigzal. There's an Eitzah to give it to the Bezin or to give it to a Shliach Bezin. Now, Nosen le'is HaKeren v'lei Nosen le'is HaChemish. He already gave the whole Karen. The Gazlan gave the Karen to the Nigzal, but he didn't give him the Chemish. Oy shemochel el HaKeren. The Nigzal was meichel the Gazlan the Karen. Of v'limachal al chemish, he still owes him the chemish. A shemachal al zev al zeh, he was mechel to him everything. Chutz mipachis mishava pruta b'karen, or a certain part of the karen, which is a pachis mishava pruta, he wasn't mechel. So the din is eini tzarech lehilach achrav. Ela yavi hanigzel v'yitlas ashar. So although the din is that the gazlan has to bring the gzeilah to the nigzal, but that means first of all he only has to bring the karen. There's no chiyuv of bringing the choimish. If the only thing the choimish is owed, so even though he owes the choimish, but on the other end that chiyuv that he has to bring it to the nigzal, wherever the nigzal may be, that chiyuv is not there. That's number one. So that doesn't belong to the choimish. And also, benigeh the karen, it only applies if there's a shavapruta of the karen. Masha'enkin, if what's left from the karen is less than a shavapruta, because he was moichel tim the karen, except for a shavapruta, so he doesn't have to return that less than a shavapruta to the nigzal. That's what ain't tzarich lehilach achrav. Eliyavi hanigzal vital sashar. So even though this shar may be less than a shavapruta, we're talking about less than a shavapruta of the karen, but nevertheless, since it started as a shavapruta, so therefore the nigzal is entitled to go ahead and take that pachs mishavapruta from the gazlan. Normally, if a gazlan steals a shavapruta, there's no chiyuv hashava. But if he steals a pruta and he only gives back a pachs mishavapruta, so then the pachs mishavapruta that's left by him, we learned already, he has to return as well. I'll call upon Eliyavi hanigzal v'yitl sashar. That's din number one. Then the Rambam continues that lepel, we're talking about a case, he stole the karen, and he was kaifer b'karen, and lepel, the nigzal was moichel him on the karen, chutz mi pachs mishavapruta. Now, chutz mi pachs mishavapruta could mean that there's part of the karen which is pachs mishavapruta. In other words, the karen was, let's say, an item that was consisted of a bunch of little things, and he was moichel him on most of those little things, but there's one particular thing that he wasn't moichel, and that particular thing is a pachs mishavapruta. So that pachs mishavapruta, the gazlan doesn't have to return. But there's a concern that maybe that pachs mishavapruta may become a pruta. It may become a pruta if things go up in price. So that pachs mishavapruta could go up in pruta. So that he says, "V'aval shak Gzeilah atzma kayemes," and it's pachs mishavapruta that's left by the gazlan. And cheshen shemet isyaker v'nimsa nisha shavapruta. Because since right now it's pachs mishavapruta, so therefore the gazlan doesn't have to go and return it to the nigzal. The gazlan doesn't have to go ahead and return it to the nigzal. Aval im nosen leisachemish, will he nosen leisacheret, fakert. The nigzal, the gazlan gave the nigzal the chemish, but he didn't give him the keren. He told him, "I'm giving this l'shem chemish, but I'm not giving you l'shem keren." Or the keren was be'en, and Mamela, he didn't give him the keren which was be'en. He just gave him some extra money which was for the chemish. Eishemochala la chemish, will he mochala la keren. And he was mechel the chemish, but he wasn't mechel the keren. Again, it could be that the keren is still be'en. There was still a shava pruta of the karen that was left. So the nekudas advarim is that this din that we learned in halacha yud, where you have to, or halacha test rather, that we have to return the item. Return the item means the shava pruta of the karen. You have to make sure to return the item to the nigzal. Is talking about the shava pruta of the karen, not if it's less than the shava pruta, and not if it's the chimish. Halacha Yud Beis. Hamachzer is a keren lebailam. He returned the keren, and now he still owes a chemish. And now the kafir pam shniya b'chemish. Now when he comes and he asks him, "Where's the chemish?" and give me the chemish, and he denies. He says, "I don't owe you the chemish." And v'nishbalav, and he swore that he doesn't owe him the chemish because he paid him already the chemish. Is nasa chemish ki keren l'chol davar. So now we speak about the chemish as if that would be the keren. And now mishal levolov chemish acher shnema v'chamishi siv yosef v'chamishi sov yosef olav. The chemish is the karen over here. The chemish is the karen, and now he has to pay a chemish on the chemish. And the pashas advarim, all the din that we learned before, that until he pays him up the karen, he has to be a lichanu, would go on this chemish, because this chemish he owed him, and on this chemish he was a kafar v'nishba. So now this chemish really becomes a karen. Whereas originally he owed this chemish as din's chemish for the original karen. So when he owed the chemish for the original karen, so the din is that he doesn't have to be elich achrov. But now this chemish, he won from him the chemish, and lepeil, he was kafar v'nishba. So now l'chura, now he owes the chemish al karen. And memela, now this chemish itself, he has to be elich achrov, and there's a chemish on this chemish. Malamed shomesav chemish al chemish. Achi ismayit ha-chemish yichbebei v'nishba olav mishava pruta. Until the chemish becomes less than shava pruta. So now when this person is going to mund his chaymish, he's munding a less than a shava pruta. No, if he munds less than a shava pruta, so there's no din of like we learned before, there's no din of that he was kaifer and he was nishba and he's chayiv a chaymish. If the original karen, which we're dealing with, which is now the chaymish that we're talking about, is a less than a shava pruta. Halacha yud gimel. Mi shahaya etzli pikadon, v'toan sha'avad v'nishba. So now he was a nishba l'sheker. And now V'Chazir V'Aveidah Shuesli was made that this original item is really by him. So he has to return the item plus a chemish. Now V'Chazir V'Toan Shavad V'Nishba. Now he tined again, it was Avad V'Nishba. This same item which he tined once was Avad V'Nishba. Now he's again tining Avad V'Nishba. And now again V'Chazir V'Aveidah Shuesli. So the din is Mishalim Shvuah, Mishalim Chemish, L'chol Shvuah Shvuah, Makeren Mechad. He only has to return one Karen. It's the original Karen. But Lepel, this original Karen he denied once, and there was a chiyuv shvuah on that original keren. Now he denied it a second time, and again there was a chiyuv chemish on that shvuah, and it's all the original keren. Shnei v'chamishi sov yesef olav melamed shum shalom kama chumshin al keren echad. So we learned two dinim. We learned before v'chamishi sov yesef olav that there could be a chemish to the chemish, and now we're also learning that there could be tum chumshin on one keren. If there were twice a denial, it knows he had a keren. He had a pikadon and he denied it, and then he was nishba and he was moida. So now he owes a keren v'chemish. Now this keren, the keren that he owes, now he goes ahead and denies it again. So now he has to pay back that same keren, which is the original keren, and now plus he has to pay another chemish.